everyone. Today we are continuing in our reading of the book of 2 Corinthians. We are in chapter 11 today, verses 1 to 15. And in today's reading, Paul is continuing to build his case to the Corinthians about why they should listen to him, why they should trust what he's saying, and in particular in today's reading, why they should listen to him instead of the other false teachers that are present, that we can infer are present from the reading. There's obviously a problem in the Corinthian church, and we see that starting in verse 4 today. You happily put up with whatever anyone else tells you, even if they preach a different Jesus than the one we preach, or a different kind of spirit than the one you received, or a different kind of gospel than the one you believed. So there are people who are preaching a false gospel, one with a different Jesus and a different spirit. And people must be turning to believe their message instead of the message that Paul preaches, because he is choosing to address this right on the head here. From Paul's words in today's reading, we can also infer that the false teachers are trying to point things out about Paul that are going to discredit him. The first thing is Paul's ability to speak is being called into question. He wasn't a trained orator, and the false teachers probably were. Although Paul notes that he did have such great knowledge. Also, the fact that Paul wasn't asking the Corinthians to support him seems to be another problem, and we see this. We're going to read verse 7 to 9. Was I wrong when I humbled myself and honored you by preaching God's good news to you without expecting anything in return? I robbed other churches by accepting their contributions so I could serve you at no cost. And when I was with you and didn't have enough to live on, I did not become a financial burden to anyone. For the brothers who came from Macedonia brought me all that I needed. I have never been a burden to you, and I never will be. Now, there are two reasons why this could have been considered a problem with the Corinthians. The Corinthians could assume that if a really good speaker asked for a large amount of support or a large fee, then they could say that someone who doesn't ask for a fee could be a not so good speaker. Also, the people in the upper classes of society could have looked down on Paul for working to support himself in this way, for not having enough to live on and having to ask for support. He could have been looked down on. However, Paul is very quick to point out that he didn't want to be associated with or classified with those false teachers who were asking for a fee to profit from their preaching. So there are two things that I think that we can take away from today's reading. And the first thing is Paul's warning to beware of people and things that are trying to keep us from the truth, the real Jesus and the real gospel. Now, in our lives today, this could look like people who are preaching falsely, but it could also more subtly look like anything that keeps us from or weakens our faithfulness to Christ. So today, let's all take a step to minimize those distractions that are keeping us from the truth of Jesus. Now, second, and I think a little bit more subtle, I think there is a message in here to take from Paul's example. Paul was fully aware of his own limitations as a gifted speaker. He calls it out for himself in verses 5 and 6. But I don't consider myself inferior in any way to these super apostles who teach such things. I may be unskilled as a speaker, but I'm not lacking in knowledge. We have made this clear to you in every possible way. So while he is aware of his limitations, he is also confident in his knowledge and confident in the other ways that God has gifted him. I think we, and I'm throwing myself in there, can be so quick to compare ourselves in the ways that God has gifted other people to the ways God has gifted us. And I think we can also be quick to dwell on our own limitations. And you know what I think? I think this is a tactic straight from the devil, because it keeps us from living fully into the ways that God has, or the It keeps us from living fully into the specific calling that God has placed on each of our lives. And that's just what the devil wants, is for us to not be effective for the sake of furthering God's kingdom here on earth. That is his goal. And he's going to do it through deception. He's going to do it through making us think that we are not capable. The truth is we are not capable, but with God and his power and his equipping us, we can do anything. So let these warnings from Paul to the church in Corinth move us to a laser focus on Christ and his truth, asking him to keep us from the lies and anything else that could distract us from him and what he has called us to do in our life.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.